I had reached 100,000 within the first 90 days, and then it just doubled. What I think sparked it, I was just flooding my feed with content. I was very diligent about answering DMs. Once I started answering the questions, that really helped boost it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Coach Tribe podcast. I know I have used to with VIP guests, but let me tell you, today we have a really big one. Today we have Jennifer Dove with us. She's an edutainer, tech guru, and she has over 267K followers on Instagram. That's insane. Hello, Jen. How are you?
Hi, Maria. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
It is our honor to have you here, and just like I'm mind blown by you, by your content, by your audience. It's huge. How do you get to such a big number?
Honestly, it was totally unexpected growth. And I just honestly was just started with just trying to get knowledge out there of all this content that I've had on my brain for the longest time. And it just kind of caught fire. You know, you hear these stories of people who just start to grow out of nowhere because they finally find their people, right? Their niche of people. And I think that I tapped into an audience that was really kind of untapped and really kind of needed some help. And I kind of filled that void for them. So that's kind of what I attribute to the growth, is just finding that need of what they needed.
Well, sounds easy to me, no? I'm joking, of course. We all know, the work, the time, the energy, the commitment that goes into growing an audience. So, what can I say? Just by congrats and keep going. The sky is not the limit, and we cannot wait to see, like where this goes. But in case you didn't realize yet, today we're going to talk about how to grow your audience on social media platforms, and who else can teach us better than Jen, though. Then we're gonna touch upon some content creation tips, like what moved the needle for Jen, what are some tips and tricks that you can use in order to get more views, capture attention, increase that watch time. And then we will also talk about, okay, now I have a following, and then what? How can I leverage that? How can I monetize, for example, Instagram? So very interesting topics. Stick around because there is lots of value to gain. Now, Jen, I'm very interesting because you said it all sort of happened maybe or kickstarted fairly fast, this growth curve. And I'm wondering, can you tell us a bit more about the growth journey? Like maybe when did you start? Where were you, let's say, 1 year ago, and what changed in the process?
Yeah, so I was working in a corporate role and I was pretty unfulfilled in my role. I was doing learning and development, which I've done for over 20 years. And there's a big piece of me that's creative, and I wasn't getting to do anything creative. So it was a lot of compliance training and things like that were kind of like, okay, I mean, needed, but like it wasn't like making me very passionate about it. Like I didn't really care for it. So I needed something. And my husband had been shooting TikTok videos randomly because he's a comedian, and he was like, I'm just going to start shooting TikTok videos. And I remember getting so mad at him because he was always on TikTok. I'm like, why are you always on TikTok? He's like, I'm going to shoot these videos. And so one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to shoot a video. And I just did something, and I'm like, I'm going to shoot a video about this Apple trick on my phone. And he's like, okay. So I did it, and I put it out there, and it like got some traction. Like it made it to like 4,000 views. And I was like, whoa, like that's big time. And so I'm like, let me put another one out. And then I started putting another one out. Right. So initially it was, okay, I'm going to try this for a month. I think that was my thought. I'm going to try it for a month. I have time during my full-time job as corporate life and then being a mom. And then like, okay, I'm going to try this. So I committed to a month of every day posting one video of something that I could teach, right? Because I'm a teacher. I've always taught. And that first month the first week was slow. The second week started to get some growth. And then one of the videos went viral, and it was completely unexpected. And I gained a bunch of followers. Like I remember hitting my first 1,000 on Instagram, and that was like huge. It's like, because I had sat at 500 people for the longest time in my personal Instagram account for years and years, but this was like explosive. I got to 1,000, and my husband was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. He's like, maybe you should do some more. So he started talking to me about things that he was like, I didn't know about this. Maybe, what about this? I don't know how to do that. And we would just randomly have these conversations. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to totally make that video. And so I would make that video. And then it would just slowly start growing until and I can't even tell you, it was probably the third month where I was like, oh my gosh, this is like something's happening here it's starting to go somewhere. What do I do? Because then it was like, oh my gosh, like, do I stop? Do I keep going? Like, how do I manage all of this? Because for me, it was just initially putting it out there just to get the information out of my brain. And I'm like, somebody can use this information. Because I saw a lot of people doing it, edutainment, they call it, right? Where you're being silly, but you're also teaching something. And then it just kept going. And I opened it up on, like, I started it on other platforms. I went to TikTok, I went over to Facebook, and it just started to just grow. And it was strange because people ask me, how did you get all those followers? And I'm telling you, it was 100% organic, like no ads. Like, people are like, are you using ads? I'm like, no, am I supposed to be? They're like, well, this is crazy. And I'm like, I know. So yeah, it's been incredible to the point where when I hit 100,000 people on Instagram, that was like game changing, where it was, oh my gosh, I think I can make a living doing this. I think this is what I'm supposed to do. And I had to have that serious conversation with myself. Do I want to continue to do all of this, or do I want to continue to focus on this that seems to be a need filler? And so I hung my hat in my corporate role and took the leap of faith and gained 100,000 more followers and said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do it. What choice do I have? I have to go. I don't want to let any of these people down now, because they're all like depending on me to put out something valuable for them. And I'm like, I can't quit. And you said it earlier, it's like, just keep going. And so I did. And so here I am, still going.
The Coach Tribe podcast is powered by Pensight. I want to take this opportunity to tell you more about Pensight and how much value it can provide you and your coaching business.
Pensight is an all-in-one platform for coaches and educators that enables you to quickly and easily build a highly credible page and sell your knowledge with one-to-one sessions, group coaching, courses, Q&As, digital products, and bundles. Payments, scheduling, video calling, client communications, and everything else is taken care of.
All it takes is 5 minutes to set up, and it's free. It's the smartest way to kickstart your coaching business. Sign up to Pensight today at pensight.com.
We are so very grateful, that you decided to keep going, because now you're here with us today and you can help many of us to take our dream to next level. Because I feel like sometimes, especially with coaches, creators, but mostly with coaches, there is always this idea, I want to do good, I want to help, I want to have an impact. It's just sometimes the business mindset is a challenge, but the truth is, what I'm learning, in order to have even an impact which is even bigger, you sort of have to work on your business mindset, because in a way, the more money you can make, the more lives you can reach. It's somehow correlated. So I'm really happy that you're around, because you can really help us move that needle if you wish. Now, just because I'm curious, how long did it take from that first video till your 267K followers on Instagram right now? And were there any spikes, like big spikes, when, for example, one video got viral? Or how did that growth go?
So I put out my very first video in the middle of March of this year. And so now we're in August. So I had reached 100,000 within the first 90 days. And then it just it doubled. What I think sparked it, a couple things. One, I was just flooding my feed with content. Like, I was just every single day putting something out, and then I would blast it across everywhere. And I was very diligent about answering DMs and staying on top of those, and going into my comments and responding to comments and liking things. And sometimes it's, it takes a lot of time to do those things. So I'd be up till 2, 3 in the morning going through comments and answering comments or liking things questions and letting people know, I see you, thank you, and people would start messaging me because it was like I opened the floodgates of, oh my God, Jen, can you help me with this problem that I'm having? My phone's doing this, or my computer won't do this, and I have a question about this. And I opened the space for them, and it flooded. So I think once I started answering the questions, that really helped boost it. And people were sharing the content with people. So it wasn't, people would see it, even people that maybe didn't need the content, they would see it and then they would share it with people that needed it. Like my audience is a lot of older people. So my demographic is like ages 40 and up, right? I had a 90-year-old send me a DM the other day thanking me for something that I put out. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm so honored, right? But even if people in their 20s and 30s see my content, even if it's not for them, I feel like they're sharing it and they're sending it to their mom, their aunt, their grandma, somebody that needs to see it because they know that people struggle and that there's no one for them to, ask those kinds of questions to and not feel like embarrassed about it. It's hard even for my own mother who's older and she doesn't like to ask me, how do I do this? Because it makes her feel inferior. Like, I should know this. Why don't I know this? So it's been very empowering for a lot of people. But I think that the sharing has really been super helpful. And I've always encouraged people, share this with somebody, even if it's not for you. It's important to share it to someone else.
And I think that's one of the factors that help probably your growth as well, because sharing a piece of content works really well for the algorithm. Like that's a signal for them that your content is good. So I think one lesson is, if you can make your content shareable, try to make your content shareable, because that will probably boost your reach. Now, first of all, I'm mind blown by your growth in literally less than a year. I think it's very empowering because it shows that it's possible. Of course, it's one of those crazy stories of like, I did it, but it's also real. You're here with us talking, you're telling us how you did it, and I think it's empowering because it gives us that hope that it is possible. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should expect such big growth. I have been doing this for more than 1 year and I'm very far from your results, but we all have our own time, I would say. And I think if you agree with me, Jen, probably the most important thing is the process, is to stick with it. And inevitably, if you keep iterating, progress will show, results will show. Like, that's my take on it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that that's such an important piece, is staying with it. Like once I committed to doing it and I said, okay, this is making an impact. Like that first taste of I was making some sort of positive impact somewhere was so invigorating that I'm like, okay, I'm going to just keep going. Like I am going to just keep going. So consistency is totally key, but also, not being afraid to fail. Big advocate of failing forward, which is something that I've always done my whole career. So if something's not working and I'm like, I knew that not every video I put out there would be good. Some of them were crap and they made it nowhere. Others were great. And I realized that I can't beat myself up over it. I just have to keep going because there's so much more that can be said, that can be shared. And even if it's just one person that watches that video and learns something from it, I've done my job, right? I've provided, but you can't expect it all to happen. You have to expect failures and, set time aside to reiterate and go back and say, okay, why didn't this work? And let's try this instead, and not be afraid to just, as a teacher, I'm not afraid to throw things at the wall and find out, is that going to stick? Oh, that's not going to stick. Okay, great. Well, let's just keep going. Let's do the next thing. So that I think has really been beneficial, to have that mindset of not being afraid of failure, because people get their first taste of failure and they're like, I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm like, no, I'm not done. I'm not done, because I see this. I can see the end goal of what I want to do. And now that I have a taste of it, like I've been in it for, I don't know what, 6-8 months now. It's like, oh my God, I love it so much. And it's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so here I am.
I've got a chills. Let me tell you this. Beautiful and inspiring. And I want to ask you, Jen, in the end, it does take knowledge about content creation in order to create content that clicks, that resonates, that brings in followers. Like, what did you know before? And if you didn't know much, how did you learn all of it?
Literally by watching other people. I follow a lot of people in the education space, but I took time to learn things like affiliate marketing. I jumped on that wagon. The course going around, everybody take the affiliate marketing course and, work from home and you'll be rich, all these things. But I took the course because I knew it had important information in it about marketing. And I knew that if I was going to head the direction, then I'm like, I need to learn what this piece is because I knew how to create content. I've always been a creator when it comes to teaching stuff. Like I've worked for companies and I've created decks for them and graphics, and I've managed the social media for our community theater. Like I've done social media management, but it's different to do it in this sense because there's so much that I didn't know that I thought I did. Monetization has been really something that I didn't realize how much goes into that there's all of these things that need to happen before you can start to monetize. And it's like doors slowly open one at a time as you start climbing the ladder. So you're down here and then maybe one little door opens and then you go up here and then another door opens. So there was a lot that I didn't understand there, and also a lot that I didn't understand about the rules of social media. Like if you're talking about a product, the things that you need to make sure you have clearly stated. I mean, I made a couple of mistakes and I had a couple of videos that were taken down and I was like, oh crap, what did I do? I did something wrong. And then I'm like, I don't know what I did. And I go back and I'm reading through the community guidelines trying to make sense of all of it because nobody teaches you how to do any of that. No one taught me how to set up my email newsletter and use my email marketing system. No one taught me how to create a sales funnel, which is still not my strongest point because I'm not a salesperson. No one taught me what I needed to do, and I just jumped in kind of blind, knowing that I knew how to teach. I knew how to make really nice graphics in Canva. Like I'm a good Canva user, and I know how to connect with people. So I'm really good at talking to people. I'm really good at making connections and building communities. And that's where I've learned. I've learned by joining Facebook groups, attending webinars when I can, paying for classes if I have to, reading. I mean, there's so much out there, everything. I can watch YouTube videos. Like there's so much that I can learn, and I love to learn. That's always been who I've been. Like I'm, the lifelong student. So that's really helped me. Having that even mindset has helped me to learn a lot. And I'm still learning. I can't tell you that I'm an expert for sure, right? I'm still learning as I go. There's a lot more to learn about it. And of course, I want to share with everyone when I discover the answers. Like this is what you need to do, because I follow a lot of creators who their content is amazing, and I've met with them and they're like, what's the secret? And I'm like, there's not a secret yet, but when I discover what that is, what that formula is, I'm happy to share it with as many people because I want everybody to be successful. We all should be able to be successful in this space. All of us. There are billions of people that we have access to through social media, and we definitely need to be cheering each other on and supporting each other.
Indeed, indeed. That's my mindset too, I would say. And I have the saying, together we rise, and I believe in it strongly. Now, Jen, you mentioned, you haven't discovered the success formula yet for content, but can you share some strategies, some tricks, some things that you saw working for you? You discovered those work, those make a difference. Like, any content tips or things that work for you?
So for me, it really was being authentic in my content, like not trying to be something that I wasn't. I wasn't showing up on screen completely covered in makeup. My hair wasn't perfect. In fact, my most viral videos, I look like absolute garbage. Like I just rolled out of bed. My hair's in a bun. I'm like still in my pajamas, and an idea struck me, and I'm like, I'm going to shoot this video right now. And those are the ones that just go like mad. And I'm like, I could have at least brushed my hair. Why didn't I at least brush my hair? So being authentic, I think One of the strategies that I learned early on was to interact with my own content, whether it's interacting with the comments, making sure I go in and hearting comments, things like that, picking out a few comments, even if I couldn't get to all of them, going in and picking out the comments. One strategy that really worked was I would post content. Let's say I would post content on a Monday, and then on Tuesday, I would post another piece of content, and I would go back to Monday's content and I would interact in with that one, because what that does is that drives the people that commented yesterday, that informs them, hey, Jen just commented or liked your whatever. So now they're coming back to see, oh, what did she do? What did she like? And while they're there, boom, they're going to see your new content. So it kind of helped me to kind of herd them to the next piece of content that I had. So that was a really good strategy to get people involved. Other content strategies, keeping it simple. Like I didn't do anything that was like long. Like I kept it to like a minute or less, and everything was just simplified. Like I wasn't trying to do any long form content because I know human attention span is so short as it is. But that was one thing that I did. And honestly, I'm not a great planner when it comes to content. I'm great at like throwing all of my ideas into my notes and then just on Monday kind of looking and going, where do I want to go today? And I take it like day at a time. And that is a strategy that's really worked for me, because then I don't get overwhelmed. And like days like today was the big Apple day when they announce all of their stuff. This is all the stuff we're going to do. I sat in front of my TV and just took notes, watching, knowing that the day was going to come. And now I'm like, I've got ideas for miles now just based on the content that I learned today. And so if I would have had a content calendar planned, that would all be trashed now, because my brain's going, no, we're going to go a different direction, because I'm always pivoting into something that is fresh and needed right now. And those things can change based on the feedback that I get from followers or DMs that I'm getting, or even comments that friends of mine will say, you need to talk about this. This is important. I'll be like, okay. And I just write it down and I shoot it. So I guess those are some of my strategies that have been working for me. But yeah, it's not too complex.
Keep it simple. Less is more. That's definitely one that I'm learning. Now, it's definitely impressive that, you're able to adjust your content so fast, and that definitely gives you the edge. But I bet it can be quite overwhelming as well. Do you have some sort of like a batch of safety content that you use maybe when you cannot create new one? Or how don't you get burnt out, after so many months of constant content creation?
Yeah, and that was a big concern initially, was I'm going to get burned out, because I was coming up with stuff constantly every day. And there would be nights where I would panic and go, what if I run out of stuff? What if I run out of stuff to talk about? So what I started doing was I recognized that it's okay to repurpose content. Like you can repurpose content. A lot of people are like, no, you can't. Yes, you can. I've tried it out and I'm like, oh, so I would go back to June came around and I would go back to March and be like, what did I talk about in March? How can I take this content? If I need to reformat it, can I pull a piece out of it? Can I create a graphic or an infographic? Can I just take a piece of this and create something new? Because I have an entire library of content that can be pieced together or broken apart. And that was something that has worked for me. So if I'm having a week where I'm like, oh gosh, I can't this week. I can't come up with anything fresh. My brain is just like putty right now. You're like, okay, let's look back at what I already have, because I have gold across the board. It's just a matter of diving in and deciding, what can I repurpose, or how can I share this in a different way? It doesn't always have to be a reel. It can be a post. It can be a carousel. It can be just a picture. There are lots of different ways that you can repurpose. But also, to avoid burnout, you have to recognize that it's okay to take a break. A lot of people that I follow will, some people will say, you need to be posting every day. You need to be posting 5-6 times a day. And I'm like, okay, who in their right mind can do that? Like, it's a lot to do that, especially if you have educational content. Like, that's a lot of stuff to even push on people. Like, I'm thinking of people going to my page and going, holy cow, like, I've seen nothing but her videos and I'm tired of seeing her videos. So I'm just going to move along. So I don't want to like overwhelm them with 10,000 videos, but I learned that it's okay. So I started taking Saturday and Sunday off. I said, you know what? I'm not going to post on Saturday and Sunday. If I posted anything, it was a story, maybe a picture of my cat sitting in my chair in my office, or me, my kids swimming in the pool, or something very personal, and letting people know that I'm taking a day off because I'm a human being. I'm not a machine, right? And I want to be fresh for when I am in creation mode and I'm putting out that stuff. So knowing that it's okay to take a break and learning how to repurpose content, I think, are two really big ways to help prevent burnout. And recognizing when you are burned out, being able to see, you're feeling that way and you need to go for a walk, you need to take a day off, even if it's a Tuesday. Take the day off. Nothing bad is, your followers aren't all going to leave because one day you decide not to post content. Because honestly, nobody knows what day you shot the content or posted the content. It just shows up for them, however the algorithm works. So that's been helpful.
You know how I know you're a teacher? Because you just summarized the lessons for us, which was great. I usually, like do that, but now it's like, wow, Jen is doing it all. Now, so something super interesting that I've been talking about with many big creators out there is, first of all, do you also focus on TikTok? And then is your content strategy different for TikTok than it is for Instagram? Like, do you see any differences? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so the content hits differently on TikTok because sometimes things will really, really skyrocket on Instagram, and on TikTok they'll kind of flop. And I'll be like, I'll really take a hard look and go, why isn't this working? Because my demographic is really similar on all of the platforms. And I look across the board, I'm like, I'm 80% women, 20% men, mostly people 40 and older. Like, the demographic below 30 is very rare. I don't get that demographic in my audience when I look at my analytics. But TikTok, I tried to do longer form videos there, where longer than a minute, and those seem to work better. TikTok seems to like the longer form videos, and I discovered through experimentation, because it's really all experimentation. Really, you're just experimenting with everything. And when on TikTok, when I really took a look at what was doing well, and it was the longer videos that people were watching. They weren't really pushing the short ones. They weren't really pushing like graphics. They weren't pushing carousel posts. They wanted things that were at least a minute long or longer. That was kind of where their focus was. It really depends. Instagram, I find that Reels do best on Instagram, but I try to mix it up. Like, I don't just exclusively do Reels. I do posts, I do carousels. And then Facebook was hard. I'll be honest. The growth there took a long time. Like, I stayed at about 1,000 people for the longest time, and I couldn't understand. I was putting the same content out because Instagram cross posts it. They put it on Instagram and it cross posts over Facebook. Why am I not getting any followers? And then out of the blue, like 50,000 people just over like 2 weeks. And I don't know what happened. Somebody was talking on Facebook and said, hey, you need to follow her, whatever. But it is different when, you think about the three platforms. And in the beginning, I was just shooting one video and then I would cross post it. And then I discovered, okay, they don't like to have the watermarks on either of the platforms. You need to make sure that when you're posting the content that you're using their editor to add a graphic, add, text, use their captions, whatever you're going to do some editing because they want you to do that. And then I started putting out different stuff because my husband's like, are you going to keep putting out the same stuff across all three? Because what if you have a follower on Facebook and the same person follows you on TikTok? They're going to scroll past your TikTok if they already saw it on Facebook. And I'm like, okay, you're right. So I started thinking of different things that I could do, or even taking the one idea for content and making it three different types of content. Maybe I post a carousel, I put the video on TikTok, and on Facebook, it's a picture. Like, I could do that kind of thing, even though it's the same topic. So that's kind of what I started doing across the platforms.
That seems like a lot of work. How do you deal with that? It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but I enjoy it. Like I really enjoy it. But that's why I had to give up my full-time job. Like I couldn't, I was starting to get burned out and I know I'm sitting on the tip of something really amazing and I needed the time so that I could start creating more content. Not to say that I don't do that every day. I don't always post different stuff across 3 platforms. Some days it's like I shoot one video and I am putting it on both places but I do that too because it's a great way to test content and platforms because I can see it's giving me a lot of data when I do that, right? I can see, oh, that one, this isn't really what Facebook wants, oh, this is what TikTok really likes. Great. Because I mean, let's face it, we're all just trying to figure out what the algorithm is to grow and be successful on the platforms. And experimentation is the best way to try to figure it out. Of course, when we figure it out, then they change it again. And then we're all trying to figure it all out again. Oh, what's working now? I don't know. Let's try this.
So, what have you found that works for each platforms? For example, you said TikTok videos longer than 1 minute seem to perform best. Like, have you found any sort of lessons like this for other platforms, or like more lessons for TikTok? Like, what are some of the learnings that you got from the data?
I would say that Instagram likes you to post a variety of stuff. Like it's not just reels. Reels perform well, but they want people to come and, see they want you to post things on your feed too, but they also want you to interact with people when you're there. So being a creator and just putting content out is only one piece of being a creator. It's so important to interact with other users on the platform. So I go follow other creators, people, whether they're in my field or they're not. I follow them, I comment, like I take time every day to go and just interact with people because they want creators to do that. They don't want you to just create. They also want you to be a user of the platform and be interacting with other people. So I found that that's really helpful on Instagram. Facebook is really pushing for more feed-based content lately. Like they want you to drive more traffic back to their OG, right? Their OG platform, which was all just a news feed. They're trying to drive more people to do that because people have been more drawn to reels and going to other platforms, and Facebook's trying to bring them back to, the news feed. Let's get people back here and keep them here on our platform before they go, somewhere else. So that's what I'm seeing on my experimentation. And then Threads, I started, I don't know if you're on Threads yet or not. I got on Threads. I'm user number like 22,672,012. I don't know, something like that. But I got on Threads, and Threads is completely different. So on Threads, it's basically I'll put a tip and it's mostly text. Sometimes I'll put a picture, but Threads is more I go and I respond, I reply to other people. And you're able to go in Threads and you can follow the whole world. You're in this stream of consciousness. You go out there and you can just comment on whatever. But I found that that's been helpful for growth on Threads. Threads, I'm only at about 12,000 people, but I think a lot of my people aren't on Threads. So, but I'm out there because I enjoy it. I learn a lot from people out there, and I follow a lot of people.
That is really, really good to know. And now, of course, most of the things that you say will apply, but I just want to put this point out there that I'm learning that what works for one creator might not work for another creator. So I would say, as Jen was saying, experimentation and data are the most important. So you just put your stuff out there, you read the data, you learn from it, and you see what works, because many times you're going to have conflicting advice on, you should be doing this or that, this works for me. But, in reality, what works for one might not work for you, and you should not stop there. You should try to find out what works for you.
That's right. That's right. And that's such a big thing, is to not let other people that aren't paying your bills tell you how to make your content. Your content should come from you. That's what makes it authentic. So I've had other people go, well, you should do this and you should do that. And why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, because this is me. This is what I'm sharing and this is what is working. So I think that's something that a lot of people fall into. They are like, oh, well, someone's telling me I need to do this. And then we start guessing ourselves. And then the whole imposter syndrome hits us all. middle and we're like, oh no, like I don't think I can do this, you know. I've been reading a lot about imposter syndrome, and it's such a thing. Like I've been experiencing it a little bit since I gave up my full-time job, going, oh my God, like this is my job now. Like I have to pay my bills this way. So it's like, I don't know if I can do it. And, you know, that little voice goes and I just crush it. And I'm like, shut up, I'm doing it. I don't care.
Since you mentioned, you have to pay your bills now, I guess that brings us to the last topic of the conversation, which is monetization. And I know you are fairly new into this, less than a year. I know that you mentioned affiliate marketing, but can you tell us what are the ways that you are now monetizing or thinking to monetize your audience?
So monetization was really, really not easy. It was hard in the beginning because I didn't understand what you had to do to become monetized. And as I continued to grow, like I mentioned in the beginning, like doors just started to open and become available. So when you reach certain levels of followers on TikTok, for example, then they open up an opportunity for you to, make money. When you hit 100,000 followers, you have the opportunity to get tips, for example. Or when I hit 50,000, I got the opportunity to be part of the creator content beta program, which, they'll pay you a certain amount based on views of your video and interactions and things like that. And then they opened up like the creator marketplace where I could go and I could buy something from the marketplace and I could talk about it on screen and, use a link. And if somebody clicks on it, then I get like a commission. So like an affiliate type thing. So there's always like something, that different ways. They're really good about providing creators opportunity to make money, but you have to work at it. It's not easy. They don't just hand it to you, and some of your videos aren't going to make anything. But I had a really good month. My very first month that I got paid, I was like, oh my God, I got like money. Like this is real. It was super exciting, but the next month it was different, so it's never the same. And I think where I'm at now is I'm trying to figure out like where is the consistent money flow coming from? Like, is it TikTok? Is it Facebook? Because Facebook, I've been able to monetize. Like they opened up ads for me. That was the first thing that they opened. They said, okay, can we put ads on your reels and you'll get money based on, how that ad forms. And I thought that was going to be like big money. And when I got my first check, I realized it was not big money. So I had my expectations were like, oh, this is going to be wild. So like be prepared to know that there's a lot that goes into monetization. It's not as easy as a lot of people make it seem. There's no like get rich quick deal that's out there. And I think in the beginning I was like, oh, I can just monetize and I'm going to be like a YouTuber that's just rolling in the dough. And that's not it at all, because I didn't understand how it all worked. Like I didn't understand how ads worked. Like, what does that mean? Where is that ad going to live? Is it going to be in my video? Like, how does that work? And then the other ways I started to monetize was I just started to create digital downloads, because that was something that I knew I could do. I mean, I have tons of them sitting in my Google Drive right now, just things that I've done over the years just by being a teacher. And I found Pensight actually, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm just going to go in here, because I started with Linktree. And one of the things that I really liked about Pensight was the ability to build the courses on the site. And it seemed easy. It was very simple to link it to my domain name that I had purchased and put it up in my bios. And I've really been happy with it. I think the ability to host one-on-ones right in it, and for it to set up my calendar invites and, remind people, like those were things that I didn't have to do. They were able to, take that on, because one-on-ones was one of the ways that was the very first way I tried monetizing, was just by having one-on-ones with people. And I would get some, but it wasn't a lot, but it was nice to be able to have Pensight kind of do all the work for me. But monetization is something, I think where I'm at now is brand deals are starting to kind of show up organically, where people will message and say, we have this really cool charger. Would you mind shooting a video about it and doing this? Or, hey, we would love to send you this. We'll give you a promo code to give your followers. And, I'll do those kinds of things. So those things have come in, and even navigating all of that has been a learning experience for me. Luckily, I have a friend who's who's a PR person, and I met with her, and I'm like, she's like, you got to get your media kit together. And I'm like, what is a media kit? She's like, oh, no, no, you got to put this whole thing together and you got to show what your numbers are and all of these things. So she helped me to build that out, and she made some connections for me. And then I have another friend that I used to work with who's already an influencer, and she's got quite a hefty following. And I met with her, and she kind of told me, these are some of the best practices around monetization that you need to be thinking about. So monetization is definitely a process, and I think people need to realize that it does take some work. You need to do your homework, and it's not immediate. Like, it's a process, and it takes time to build and get where you need to go. I've only been less than a year, and so I'm just starting, and I'm hopeful that it's going to continue to grow. And as I grow, like, more of these opportunities just kind of organically start to open up, because people are seeing you and they're seeing, oh, she's got some reach here, and we may be able to get her in front of people. So I'm very hopeful that that continues to grow, but it's still learning. Like, I'm not pro at monetization by any means, but I'm here for it. Like, I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, whatever. And, the more I grow, the more I can share with other people, and maybe my business can take another path where I can help, younger influencers that are starting out, and be able to share my story with them and what I've learned along the way, and that can help them somehow too, which is why I'm here, because hopefully something that I say will resonate with somebody and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
I am sure the things that you say will resonate. They definitely resonate with me and they have helped me. And as you're saying, hopefully our audience a lot. And Jen, you're honestly doing amazing. I gotta tell you, I'm talking with some fairly big creators out there with big, big following, but I don't know what you're doing. You seem to be on the top of your game. So keep doing whatever you're doing because you are rocking it. And then, of course, please do share your lessons with us so that we can learn from you and your journey. Now, this has been fantastic, Jen. Thank you so, so much for being here. But before you leave, would you like to share with us, maybe why should people follow you, or how can you help our audience, or why they should reach out to you?
So follow me, because I am trying to basically educate the people that are just not as techie as they want to be. Technology is something that comes very easily to me, and I absolutely love it. I'm a giant nerd. I love to nerd out on everything that I can about my phone. Someone asked me one time, how did you know so much about your phone? And I'm like, because I spend hours looking at my settings because it's fun. And they're like, okay. If they know people that struggle with technology, I mean, the older generation of people, they always need help, and they're not always able to get to the Apple Store or get to Best Buy or get to some class to help them. So if they need support, or any younger influencers just want to connect with me, I'm happy to share my story and any strategies that have led to the growth. I absolutely would want to share that with anyone that wants to sit down and have a one-on-one coffee with me. I'm happy to share.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Well, what can I say, Jen? This has been really, really, really nice, really useful. I cannot wait to honestly re listen to this, to take my notes out of this episode, because I have, like anyone else, a lot to learn. And also, I would say follow Jen, if you're interested in Instagram growth more than the tech side, you can also literally study her content and like see what performs and try to understand why is it that this video worked and better than the other. Like, there are lots of lessons in your content, Jen, and I think it's a great study case. So that's another reason for us to follow. That was my point. But thank you so much. Any last words for our audience today?
No, just honestly, just keep going, and don't be afraid to be bold and experiment. It's just such an important thing. I know there are probably people out there that are, bummed out if their stuff's not doing really well, or they're not getting the growth that they expected. Just keep going, because what you're doing is important to someone. So, and you never know when, you finally reach where you need to be, there's somebody else that you're going to be able to help get to that next level too. So keep going.
Keep going. That's a great way to end this episode. Well, thank you so much again, Jen. Thank you, dear audience, for sticking till the end. I shall see you all for the next episode of the Coach Drive podcast. Have a good one, everyone.
Hope you enjoyed this episode.
we'll be releasing every Wednesday. So make sure to
subscribe
and rate us 5 stars where you're listening to this show to give others a chance to discover it too.